You are very welcome to Lakelands for tonight's IRFU live coverage of the Energia Bateman Cup final between Terenure and Buccaneers RFC on a very, very cold evening. If you can see from your picture, on the far side of the pitch, a snowbank on this near side, a snowbank piled up in front of the fencing. It's worth pointing out before we say anything else that this morning both this pitch and the main pitch were absolutely covered in snow. It was freezing on when Terenure put out the call for volunteers, and they came in their droves like the elves in Lord of the Rings coming over the hill. The volunteers turned up to make this pitch playable, and without those volunteers at all levels of club rugby, we wouldn't have games like this, and we certainly wouldn't have a final to watch tonight. So all the credit in the world due to Terenure RFC and their volunteers. Dan Mooney on commentary will be joined by Michelle Claffey, Ireland international, very, very shortly. But before we do that, we're going to have just a quick look back at the semi-final games between the two sides who have made it to the final. Terenure's match against Young Munsters and Buccaneers' game against Queen's University, and we'll be back to you very shortly.
Double shot, boys!
You are welcome back to Lakelands for the IRFU coverage of tonight's Energia Bateman Cup final between Terenure and Buccaneers. The ground starting to fill up. Dan Mooney on commentary alongside Michelle Claffey. A quick look at the Terenure College team. The front rows: Campbell Classen, Levi Vaughan, Adam Chute. Captain Harrison Brewers in the second row with Michael Melia, Adam Melia, Jordan Coughlin and Niall Lawler make up the back row. Alan Benny is at 9, James Thornton at 10, Caelan Dooley and Stephen O'Neill in the centre. And the back three: Craig Adams on one wing, Sam Coughlin Murray on the other, and Adam LeGrew at fullback in a very strong Terenure College RFC team. For Buccaneers, the front rows: James Kelly, Stephen Lombard, Martin Staunton, with Fun McDonald, Rory Byrne in the second row. Sean O'Connell, Luke Balsiger and Cathal Walsh make up the back row. Frank Hopkins and Michael Hanley are the half-back pairing. Centres are Stephen Mannion and Conor Fitzgibbon, and the wingers: Ross Murphy Sweeney, Harry Balsiger the brother, and Andrew Evans makes up the 15, the full-back position. Michelle Claffey is with me on commentary. Michelle, it's a cold night for a game of rugby.
It's a cold, crisp evening here in Terenure, absolutely. But the crowd's starting to appear out on a very snow-bordered pitch. I think that's safe to say.
When you're playing in conditions like this, I mean, is this something you have to prepare for? Does it change tactics prior to a game, knowing that it's going to be this cold? Does it affect how you approach the game of rugby?
I think you just have to wear your warm clothes as you're warming up and try to get some heat into the body, and then just realise that once the game is on, your hand's going to get cold. Try to keep it warm. Luckily for the forwards, when there's at scrum time, they'll be nice and warm, but then wingers, I think they'll be cold tonight.
In terms of these two teams, two separate divisions, Division 1A, Division 1B, Buccaneers making a serious charge for promotion into 1A. They won't know a whole lot about each other, will they? No,
they won't. However, both are quite near the top of both divisions, second in 1A and 1B respectively. So it's the top of their respective leagues playing against each other. So it will be a good contest here to see what the difference is.
Harrison Brewer leads the Terenure team out as the mascots line up to applaud them onto the pitch. And the Terenure fans show their appreciation for their side. We mentioned at the top of the programme, it's worth mentioning again that this match would not have been playable if not for a team of volunteers, 50 or so of them, who arrived after a call to arms from Terenure early in the day. They arrived with shovels and tractors and everything else they could get their hands on to clear all of the snow. You can see it along the back of the pitch, up against the fencing. It's along the sides, all the way around. That snow covered the entire pitch this morning, and with the help of all those volunteers, they managed to clear it off. This game would have been playable, and indeed many games in All-Ireland League Rugby wouldn't be playable but for the volunteers who put their time in to support their clubs. Scattering of Buccaneers fans here applauding their team out onto the pitch. Michelle, what kind of a game can we expect?
Well, based on the semi-finals, both teams put their best foot forward there. It was really exciting, especially with Terenure. It was quick. Buccaneers scored some excellent tries. So we'll see what happens tonight. I know it's two very different teams from the semi-finals. We've seen unavailability, but we'll soon see what's going on. But just to reiterate your point in community, it was a massive effort by the whole community here, young and old, are out here today clearing that pitch. So it's really important to understand the community element of rugby today in Ireland is incredible and immense. Especially
within the All-Ireland League. Buccaneers will start us off, and it's Michael Hanley, the out half, who is shaping up. Porrick Reedy is the man in the middle in green and white. Gets the last thumbs up from Captain Harrison Brewer. And when these teams are ready, we will kick off this Energia All-Ireland League Bateman Cup final. It's sure to be a great game between the Leinster champions, Leinster Cup champions, and the Connacht Cup champions. Hanley kicks us off, dropping it into the backfield, really well collected out on the wing, and Terenure look to bring it back, starting with that zip that they have, this second place team in Division 1A, and moving it out the back they go. Buccaneers do well to close the door, and that's a super tackle from Stephen Mannion in midfield. Alan Benny is at the back, popping it up. And Terenure with the one out carries, huge work. That one from Campbell Classen. Back it goes. Terenure will exit. Big long kick, dropping into the waiting hands of Andrew Evans. Popped up and carried back inside over the halfway line and into the Terenure half again. These collisions are important for Buccaneers. They'll need to get clean ball back. It's slow, but they have their own possession. And that's important for Buccaneers early in this game to show that they have the physical capabilities of handling this Terenure team. A strong side, a huge physical team, Terenure. Third phase ball. Whipped out to Hanley. Hanley with a lovely little dink back inside. It's gone a little too long to be competitive. Collected in the backfield. And the kick for touch is going to bounce just over the 10-metre line. And, well, wasn't much change for Buccaneers on those couple of phases and eventually kicking it away.
No, and to be honest, like Terenure were leaving the rucks there and kind of they were being very selective on when they were kind of going to look for that turnover, and that's very difficult to play when you're looking at a full line of 14 players in front of you and trying to find what the gap is. So definitely Buccaneers will have to manage their kick back into the Terenure 22 a bit better, either to drop beforehand rather than into it and give Terenure that kind of easy exit.
Well taken off the top just about after tough competition in the air, and it's collected from Frank Hopkins, the scrum half. Hopkins to the deck. The Buccaneers want this ball back. Terenure prepared to spring up. The carry gains some yards for Buccaneers. They need to get on the ground, and they deemed to be holding on in the tackle after referee Pádraig Reedy had said to release, and so a penalty to Buccaneers and a chance to try and get an attacking option. Their first treatment injury of the game, and Bucks will be pretty happy with that.
Yeah, that's the second time Frank Hopkins after getting caught in contact now, whereby Bucks haven't had their 9 to try and marshal the troops or get them into a set. So Bucks forwards have to work a little bit hard to get available for it, or else try and stop Terenure pouring through and putting them under so much pressure.
Terenure have been putting teams under significant pressure in the All-Ireland League. It looks as though after only a minute, less than 3 minutes, Levi Vaughan's game might already be over. He's escorted from the pitch. He may be making his way back on. We'll update whenever we can. The penalty doesn't find touch, and that's a blow for Buccaneers as Terenure collect and kick back towards them, and into touch it goes, back up at the halfway line, and those are the kind of mistakes a team just cannot afford to make against an outfit like Terenure.
They really need to take their opportunities and just really make touch when they get down there, because now you're giving Terenure a free chance to win that ball back in a really good attacking position. So hopefully Buccaneers can secure this line out.
Stephen Lombard's first line out was successful, albeit just barely. A second opportunity to throw at the halfway line. Some confusion about numbers, and eventually it goes to the tail, well collected off the top and into the hands of Hopkins. Hopkins with the little dink over. Is there an opportunity to run onto and collect? There was an opportunity. It was almost in the hands of Stephen Mannion, and eventually it goes to ground and Terenure collect. Benny skipping outside. Terenure looking to get some numbers and get moving, and it's a really good carry from Ross Murphy-Sweeney. And he is brought into touch, but the referee says there was an offside, and so Terenure will have the penalty and the opportunity to kick down and get their first attack at this game. They've been happy enough in the opening 4 minutes to let Buccaneers have the ball and see what they can do with it. Now it's Terenure's turn, and this is where we'll see what they're made of, Michelle.
Really good vision though there from Michael Hanley to just nudge that over the top of Terenure, because their line speed was putting them under pressure. Got in behind, turn Terenure, but their scramble was excellent.
The ball kept in play, not finding touch. The second penalty of the game, and Ian Evans gets his hands on it and then puts his boot on it, and the result is pretty much the same. It goes into touch inside the 22, just outside the 22, and so Terenure will have the attacking option. That's 2 errors unforced very early from both sides on penalties. Weather is hardly having anything to do with that, is it?
It is Cup Rugby, it's a final, so maybe a few nerves out there coupled with the weather.
It is Conor McCormack who's in for Levi Vaughan. His throw is good to the tail of the Terenure lineout. Harrison Brewer collected, and a maul looks to get moving. Jordan Coughlin adding his weight to that as McCormack joins the back. It's shifting left and right, and it's going forward at the same time. Buccaneers have a lot of work to do to compete with this and try and slow down the momentum that Terenure have. It looks as though they're not going to be able. It's still 5 metres out. It's still the same maul. The referee says that's once, but it looks as though Terenure are going to go all the way to this line. There's surely no stopping them from here. They're on the deck. Is the ball down? No, it's at the back. Alan Benny needs to get his hands on it. Lovely little reverse pass inside. Popped up, and it looks as though the try has been scored, and has been scored. Lovely reverse pass from Alan Benny, fooling everyone, including this commentator, and Terenure score in the corner, and that's really made by Benny, isn't it?
excellent work with the line, but can we just talk with that maul from the forwards off that line out? What an excellent drive forward. You can see Alan Benny had no interest in taking that ball out. He knew and he trusted his forwards to take that and just close the space and get nice and close to the try line. That reverse pass, no luck, everything, got everybody.
Superb score in the corner. Really well taken from Terenure. Their first attack of the game. They marched 22 metres from all the way to the try line and then finished in the corner. They get first blood in Lakelands. 6 minutes on the clock and they lead by 5 points to 0.
And that just came from the Bucks not making the touch off a penalty, and then they were just marched down the line. Terenure capitalising the Buccaneers' errors when Buccaneers should have been capitalising Terenure. What a strike. Yeah.
The strike is good, and it's Caelan Dooley playing at 12 rather than 10, and he slots that one. He's kicking outstanding. 7-0 with just shy of 7 minutes played in this game. As Michelle Claffey pointed out, errors will be punished. This is a Terenure team that can do that. Make mistakes, and there are scorers all over this. They can play that kind of fast and loose game, Michelle, and then when they need to go to that power that pack very clearly has, whenever they feel like going to that as well. It's a team that really has everything.
And especially when kind of you're putting the other team on the back foot, you're going to get mistakes, they're going to start being offside, and they're going to start capitalising that going forward. But like Dooley there is top point scorer here for Terenure. He slotted that kick, and I think he's had a good bit of practice over the year going for posts, so hopefully see more of this. It's really interesting that they're playing again out of the 22, second time. We'll see if it works.
Out to the wing it goes, and it looks as though there's options, and Jordan Coughlin bursts right through the middle. Looks like there will be options outside, and it's just spilled, unfortunately, in front of Craig Adams as he was tearing through. The try line was begging. Coughlin's break, but he's got that explosivity, the big back row forward, and through the gap he went. Suddenly it looked like it was all on. Massive pace from the number 8, and unfortunately Adams just couldn't collect, and really looked as though that try line couldn't come quick enough.
That was the second time that Terenure tried to play out of their own 22. First time the centres read it really well and shut it down. This time it was just excellent hands, really good and clinical from Terenure, just to get into the gap, get into the space and just run straight, which is so important.
First scrum of the game, with a inconveniently placed pole blocking our view. Frank Hopkins will feed, I think, behind the pole. Buccaneers going backwards. Really well done at Hopkins to get it out, and Hanley puts his boot on it. Crossfield kick goes behind, and that's an unforced, unfortunate error. The option was there. It was a good kick from Michael Hanley, and then it just drifted behind and goes into touch, and you just don't want to see yourself back in this position again. They did really well to get that ball out of that scrum. And now suddenly find themselves back under pressure again.
Yeah, Buccaneers didn't seem too confident. Even Andrew Evans is standing at the back of the attacking line and just has his hands on his hips, so I think the body language needs to change a little bit to even look like a threat. Michael
Melia takes in the Terenure line out, and once again the maul starts to move, and it already marched about 20 metres. It's going to keep going. Buccaneers need to deal with this pressure. Referee says that's once, and into midfield it goes. Dooley, Thornton outside to LeGroux. Adam LeGroux brought to ground just about, and Bucks need to reorganise. Alan Benny into midfield, and it's spilled forward and collected really well from Stephen Lombard. And then the kick, well, it's an awkward one, and it's going to drop into the hands of Craig Adams. Adams tackled in the air. Rules Paul Greedy, and it just slightly mistimed, and the penalty means that there will be an opportunity, presumably for Caelan Dooley or for Mr. Thornton, to go for the posts.
Really good kind of tackle there by Harry Balsinger, and then unfortunately just got his timing a little bit off on the collect. I suppose there wasn't enough distance on that as a clearance kick to be an exit.
And Terenure opt to put the pressure on. As we see, Levi Vaughan has come back into the game, so presumably that was a blood substitution. Levi Vaughan is back in and will have the throw into the Terenure lineups at the 22. To the tail it goes once again. It's Melia at the back. And once again, Terenure set up this maul. It's been a potent weapon in the opening 10 minutes of this game. Levi Vaughan controlling at the back. This time it's a little bit more broken, and Alan Benny says, give it to me, and there's nobody at home, and Alan Benny races through to touchdown. It looked like he may look for the pass. He saw the gap open up in front of him, and Alan Benny runs in one of the most easy scores he's going to get all season.
Just the power and the strength of that maul just pulled that last Buccaneers defender in. I mean, they're just a little bit too wide on it. Their backs turned, didn't know one last jump in. Yeah, just a bit of disorganisation in the defensive line from Buccaneers, unfortunately, and left a very easy run in for Benny.
Benny scores to make it 12-0, and you would imagine this one's going to be routine. Caelan Dooley just to the left-hand side of the posts. As Michelle Claffey already mentioned, he's had plenty of practice kicking at the posts this season. Given Terenure's form, the number of wins they've had in the All-Ireland League, expect this one will be routine.
Let's open at the restart for Buccaneers. They put pressure on. They kind of can hopefully pin back Terenure in their 22, but they really need to put them under pressure to make the tackles and not let Terenure run at them, because they're absolutely excellent in their counter.
And so 14-0 score, 12 minutes on the clock, and Buccaneers need to pick themselves up and get back into this game, try and put some pressure on Terenure. Slow coming back to that halfway line.
And Buccaneers are today led by Martin Staunton. Martin's in his 15th year at Buccaneers, the captain today, so plenty of experience. Yeah, plenty of experience wearing the Buccaneers crest, so really exciting here to see him today.
The kick is long and drops deep, collected. And the kick goes back and really well taken in the backfield. And now Ivans has his hands on it. He puts a Gary Owen high up and chases after his own kick. It's going to drop and it's spilled forward, and the ball is there to be played, and it will be a penalty.
Excellent.
The knock on, and then a player playing in front makes it offside. A penalty to Buccaneers. A super kick up into the night sky, and a great chase on that kick to put pressure on Terenure, and Buccaneers get a reward for it.
And great decision here, Buccaneers. Cup rugby, take your points till they come, and then go from there. At least now Terenure kick back to them, they receive, and then they can actually play. They'll get to play with the ball. It gives themselves some time in it as well. They obviously are not in the position to trust their line at the minute, because Terenure line is very strong, so they just want to manage that and just take your points.
The pace of the game suiting Terenure at the moment. Michelle, will they want to slow this down?
I would. Definitely would. Just a little bit, just for a while, just to get comfortable into it, because Terenure have got a lot of ball in hand, and they're being allowed to play as well.
Addressing the ball, it's Michael Hanley. Not an easy kick by any means, the distance involved, but there's no breeze. Given how cold it is, I'm quite grateful for that. The kick is slotted, and Buccaneers are on the board. It's now Terenure 14, Buccaneers 3, just shy of 15 minutes played, and they'll be pleased with that, considering it's been a slow start.
Yeah, but that was great for Hanley now to take his points, because again, he's the top point scorer for Buccaneers, and 95 points in the AIL this year to date, with 3 games left. So obviously he's had, again, plenty of practice at kicking the post, especially given Buccaneers' position on the table. James
Thornton will kick us off. High and hanging into a very still, wintry sky. Really well taken in the air from Rory Byrne. And the carry from Stephen Lombard is superb. Terenure looking to put some pressure on. Have they managed to pinch that? No, they haven't. The ball is loose. The referee says Campbell Classen has come around or flopped over that one and sealed it off. And a penalty to Buccaneers. Opportunity to get out of their own half, and this is what they would have wanted. Showing no signs of slowing it down, though. They were quick to move that ball.
Yeah, but even now it gives them a chance to march it up the pitch and takes back control, because obviously it's their penalty, their ball. So hopefully they can retain possession here and give themselves a good platform. Right inside the pitch, open pitch, Astro could be quick.
Stephen Lombard has had a good start to this game for Buccaneers. Line out throwing is 2 out of 2, and his carries in the loose have been strong so far. And a commentator's curse He has absolutely ruined it for Mr. Lombard, and Terenure have in midfield and looking to carry heavy through traffic. Support players are there. Alan Benny popping it up. Coughlin, a lovely reverse pass inside, and there's a break on. And Buccaneers need to scramble back and get some hands on this. Benny, quick to it. Opts for the second man out. Lovely pass. Is there shoulders to go through? Carries inside. Craig Adams looks to break through 2 tackles. The lovely little dink through kick. Is it going to go too far? No, it's not. It's going to pop up for Adam LeGrew. And LeGrew touches down for Terenure's 3rd try of the game to take it to 19 points to 3. And that was a fine finish and a lovely little dink kick through.
Absolutely excellent finish there towards the end. You can see that Buccaneers' defensive line is just at 2s and 3s there. I don't know if they're expecting a line break. They just needed to get a bit of connectivity across the line just to manage that, because they had that situation under control.
Really well measured kick from Craig Adams, the winger. And that rugby ball can be cruel when it bounces sometimes. Today it was the other way around. And lovely little pop up into the waiting hands of Adam LeGrew.
Terenure at home on their AstroTurf, they know the bounce of that ball. Good idea of how much to put onto it, so it was excellent, well timed, especially by the winger.
This a little less than routine for Caelan Dooley. His 2 kicks out of 2 so far, but both were fairly basic. This one from the left hand side, far from basic. He puts the boot on it. Is it going to come back inside?
Yeah.
It is, and that is a super conversion. And Caelan Dooley is all smiles as he jogs back into position. He'll be pleased with that kick.
That was an unbelievable kick, especially the angle, the distance, everything he gave himself. Unfortunate for Buccaneers to get that try in, but great kick, great nudge forward.
And so Buccaneers will restart. This will be their 3rd. 21-0, just shy, 21-3, excuse me, just shy of 20 minutes. And putting it long again and aiming for inside the 22. And once again, Terenure look to find gaps. Energy and running is outstanding. Explosivity to them, and in every carry they look to be making yards. Once again, Stephen Lombard doing some great work and stopping Terenure in their tracks. And it looks as though it's been intercepted. It has been intercepted. And suddenly Buccaneers are on the attack, and this may be their first opportunity. First possession inside the Terenure 22 since the game started. Huge tackle from Malia. And Buccaneers looking for soft shoulders on the inside. Still into midfield, and once again Lombard finding work to do. It's slow ball for Buccaneers. They would want it quicker. Nice little step from captain Martin Staunton. Brought down just outside the 22. Into the hands of Sean O'Connell. Ground he goes. More options showing and waiting for them. That one was Luke Balsinger. And suddenly looks as though a little snipe was on from Hopkins, and it's been torn out of his hands, ripped clean, and Terenure have. And even from here they look to be dangerous. Through the hands they'll go, looking for shoulders. Coughlin has it. Lovely little pop-up pass into the hands of Benny, and it's back outside and back inside, and Terenure have gone almost the length of the pitch. Having turned it over inside their own 22, they now find themselves on the attack. Ball was loose and picked up by Buccaneers, knocked on the ground, and Bucks have it back. They'll be delighted to have turned that over. Terenure streaming forward in numbers.
Great scramble D there from Buccaneers, and good exit here now. Let's hope they get that line chase.
Adam LeGrew is waiting to collect inside the 22, puts his boot on it. Into the backfield. Evans returns the kick with some interest, bouncing outside the 22. LeGrew lets it bounce somewhat awkwardly. And eventually kicked into touch. And it's a super clearing kick all the way up to the just shy of the halfway line, just over the halfway line. These games are kick tennis.
A lot of patience there by Terenure as well. They're no rush. They're very calm, especially with the incoming Buccaneers defenders, but they managed to find touch, and it was good bit off the pitch too.
We'll forgive this ever so slightly elderly commentator. Stripy jerseys with numbers on the back are absolutely illegible to me at a distance.
It's very difficult to see, especially when they're moving as fast as they are.
I appreciate you letting me off the hook like that.
You're welcome.
small break in play. This treatment is happening at the edge of the 22. Buccaneers currently down a man. The referee says we'll hold. Game clock is stopped at 20 minutes. We're a quarter of the way through the game. 21-3. On the balance, probably a fair reflection of what we've seen so far.
And then just there when Terenure was trying to exit the 22, Michael Hanley came up, and it was really good defensive read from him, just trying to stem the exit from Terenure because they had been running it. Really good high defensive line, got the intercept and actually put Buccaneers in a really good attacking position in the 22.
Strong defensive rip put an end to that attack. Terenure's defence is as mean as their attack is strong.
Their decision making and when to go for the turnovers and not at breakdown time is brilliant. They have a full defensive line, and I can't imagine being in that position where you're trying to, where can I attack next for the opposing team.
Yeah, you mentioned that at the start. Is that a decision made before the game, or is this something that has to happen on the fly, choosing which rucks to compete at and which ones to not?
I think it's who can go after them more so than else.
The throw to the tail of the line-out was overthrown but then knocked forward by Levi Vaughan. So Buccaneers will have put into the scrum just inside their own half. Stephen Lombard, as was pointed out earlier on, Buccaneers line-out under some pressure from the Terenure defensive line-out set. Now it will be the scrum. The treatment at the time was for Luke Balzinger, the number 8.
Just dump it there. I'll get
came
it
in the last minute for Brian O'Mara.
No, it's all right.
Buccaneers
It's all right.
team,
Just leave it down there. Cheers,
he
thanks.
was treated at the edge of the 22. He went
Just
back
down
into the
there,
game.
great,
He's
thank you.
getting treatment again, and you have to wonder if his game is over at this point.
He's one of the number of under-20s who are playing tonight for Buccaneers, some getting their first cap. Andrew Evans is getting his first cap tonight for senior rugby, so it's a very exciting time for them.
Tough game to be making your senior rugby debut against a team like Terenure, and it is indeed the last action of the game for Luke Balzinger. Going to be a replacement in the back row.
Defensively here, Terenure are playing 3 1/4, so we'll see what kind of space opens up here in the backfield for Michael Hanley, see what happens.
Matthias O'Neill comes in for Buccaneers. Frank Hopkins will have to feed. Terenure turn the screw, and Hopkins needs to get his hand on it and just about does get it out. He's done really well. Hanley into midfield. Lovely carry in midfield from Conor Fitzgibbon. And there's a penalty advantage coming, so free play for Buccaneers. Lovely little carry into traffic. Fitzgibbon again. Hopkins into midfield. Are there soft shoulders to aim at for Buccaneers? Terenure picking and choosing which balls to go at, and the pass is overthrown. The referee says no advantage. Paul Greedy blows the whistle offside against Terenure. The Buccaneers will have the chance to kick for touch and get out of their own half, see if they can't get a score on the board and turn this back into a match.
It's great to get Conor Fitzgibbon on the ball, especially for the type of game they really need to take it to Terenure and kind of try get off shoulders, go forward and just take the heat off their forwards for a while, get the backs to carry some, and then keep the forwards as fresh as possible.
He's not a small man, it's Conor Fitzgibbon.
No.
Those centres that dual roles as a back row forward when needed. Another slight break in play. And it looks as though it's going to be the posts. As Buccaneers look to get another score on the board. This one is not close.
Interesting decision, but again, they have the ranges, has the practice all year, so.
Some distance out, but directly in front of the posts. So there's no need to guide this one. And as I mentioned before, absolutely no wind here. It's so still. That one looks to have the distance. It absolutely does. That's a super penalty kick. And Terenure still with the 21 points. Bucks move to 6. And that is a good return for a team who rarely got out of their own half.
And do you know what? That'll be great for Buccaneers now, finally kind of getting the points taken onto the board. No matter what happens now, at least now they can start in the restart, collect the ball and just settle themselves into the match a little bit more.
Thornton has it. Will restart for Terenure. Hard to describe just how cold it is in Lakelands. There'll be nothing left of me toes. And it is dropped out of the hands and collected by Terenure outside the Bucks 22. That's what Buccaneers would not have wanted. Levi Vaughan on a big carry. Terenure have numbers. Alan Benny into midfield. Thornton looking for options, and Terenure have numbers. Through the hands they go. Benny outside, through the hands and all the way towards the corner, and it's intercepted and picked up, and the referee has blown the whistle. There's been a knock on in the middle of that. Was it an offside call? Porrick Reedy will indicate for us.
It's just a knock on the tackle. Porrick Reedy deemed to be a yellow card offence, so Buccaneers down to 14.
Deliberate infringement, professional foul, and Porrick Reedy brings out the yellow card. Buccaneers down to 14, and the next 10 minutes are going to be tough.
Buccaneers have been caught short on the open side. Terenure are attacking very clinically. They're getting a bit tight around the ruck, and so they're leaving a lot of space out there. Wingers feeling a bit lonely, so hopefully they'll get their fold sorted a bit better. Just leave the rucks and just set their defensive line.
Levi Vaughan to the tail, collected by Melia, and surely we're going to see yet another Terenure maul. This time Buccaneers get a good defensive shove on. The referee says that's once. It's the first time the Terenure maul hasn't moved since the start of this game, and now it starts to rumble forward, but it's picked from the back, and Terenure look to break through the gap. Really good work at that breakdown from Cathal Walsh, but Terenure still have. Once again the pole interfering with our view, and Levi Vaughan on another carry. The hooker's been busy. Benny inside, big carry from Harrison Brewer, the captain. Brought to ground, Benny, skip out pass towards the line, and it is touchdown. And that is the 4th try of the game for Terenure. But there isn't much celebrations. It seems as though someone may have hurt themselves going over. Terenure player slow to get to their feet. You'd have to hope they're okay. The penalty, the try has been scored. Terenure lead 26 points to 6.
Very patient build up there from Terenure. You can see that they had their pods organised, and just the width that Benny is getting on his passes off the forwards coming around the corner. It's just really getting on the outside shoulder of Buccaneers, just doing the damage.
It was Niall Lawler who was getting the treatment, but he's back on his feet. He's rejoined after scoring his try. So Terenure will continue with their 15. Caelan Dooley has his 4th opportunity to kick at these posts. Nailed an outstanding conversion from the touchline last time out. This one, well, still by no means easy, but a little easier than that one. I'd expect him to get it, Michelle.
Comes out his personally. No, he's been striking the ball pretty well in the game, so we'll see what happens. Terenure are getting a lot of return though on the left hand side of the pitch, so that's kind of something they've identified, or else that's where they're putting the ball.
And I have indeed cursed Caelan Dooley as that one is pulled to the right and wide. My apologies to Terenure and to Caelan Dooley. So Bucks collecting themselves. They've done well to get the 6 points they got out of the game. We're hoping to build on that, but the yellow card seems to have had an effect. Terenure exploit that quite ruthlessly. 26-6 now as we approach the half-hour mark.
Bucks can get a bit of height on this rather than distance and really put that ball carrier under pressure. It might be more beneficial for them rather than the depth, because Terenure are able to run and kick from the 22 quite successfully.
Another deep kick-off from Hanley. Terenure once again so in a hurry to get that ball through the hands, and they're doing really well. Lovely little loop pass, and suddenly they're attacking with gusto on this wing. Have Buccaneers managed to get over this and interfere with it? Referee says no. Slow ball though. And then Benny into midfield. Thornton, hands on it. Little pop, reverse pass, and out towards the winger Craig Adams. Adams on the run. Has he got space to run through? Hall to ground, but gets his pass off. How he managed to, don't know. Terenure still have. Attacking now, that ball a little behind. Players have to check their runs. So quick to go through the hands, Terenure, so dangerous. And lovely little step, and two lovely little steps. Craig Adams. Terenure showing options everywhere, and Campbell Classen on the break, stepping back inside. Oh, just brought down, pops it up for Adam LeGroux, and Adam LeGroux touches down to make it 31-6. And Campbell Classen is going to have his front row union card taken off him after this match is over. Explosive pace from the front row, and he puts Adam LeGroux in for a routine score, the second of the game for the fullback. The step from LeGroux, just tripped before he manages to get that pop up. Good score. Very good.
The pace of and the quickness of the rucks, even though there hasn't that many. It's just Buccaneers are not making, I suppose, as many dominant tackles as they would have liked to, but then the speed and the width that Benny is getting on them passes is really hurting Buccaneers, and it's just not giving them an opportunity to get set in defence, and they're quite narrow, so they're definitely punishing them.
31-6. Half an hour on the clock. Terenure home support cheering on Campbell Classen. Kieran Dooley just struck it off the post. It looked like it was going over, and it just curled back in. Strikes the post, and so the score remains 31 points to 6. You'd imagine Buccaneers are waiting for half time now.
I have to commend Terenure though, and they're attacking. Like, it's quick, they're finding, and the offloads are being thrown, we can't even see it happening, and their attack is just never ending.
We have the benefit of a slightly raised position in which to watch this, and a monitor to see this game, and I'm still missing some of the offloads. Terenure moving that ball so quickly. And the outs again for the long kick-off into the 22, and once again Terenure collect and come out of that 22. Bats out of hell, and there are numbers in midfield as they look to go. Alan Benny with the step and receives it for the second time and pops up inside and spins it outside, and Terenure is so dangerous going forward. Buccaneers need to find means to cope with this. And the referee says there is a penalty. And Buccaneers do cope with a little quick show and go, and there's going to be another penalty advantage for not being back 10. Bucks go to ground at the 22, and Paul O'Grady says that was cynical. He reaches into the pocket, and there is going to be a yellow card. Just as Bucks were getting up some momentum, the quick tap and go was the good idea.
Absolutely brilliant idea there, because Terenure wouldn't have been expecting it. So let's get Buccaneers back into the 22 and see what their maul might be like.
Hanley kicks for touch. It's going to be a 5 metre line out. As you mentioned before, suspect is too strong a word, but it hasn't been as reliable as Buccaneers might like it to be. They really need to get this one to work, surely.
Hopefully it's nice and simple, up at 2, and then just drive, knock the putt into touch.
Stephen Lombard will feed, really well taken from Fionn McDonald, just as Michelle Claffey said. And now the drive. Lombard at the back. Paul Greedy says that's once, and there's a little peel off the back, and Buccaneers look to go and get towards that line. They're short though. It'll be pick and go from here, surely. 1 out carries from Buccaneers. Ball is there to be played. Scrum half will be told where to go by his pack. Meters out. Terenure are mean in defence. They'll be looking to get hands on that. Really well defended and driven back.
Excellent double tackles coming in here when they're really defending. 5 metre line like it's a try line. It's excellent.
Through the phases, Buccaneers go, but they're going backwards in the contact because of those tackles and the commitment that Terenure are showing in defence. Bucks need to show some of their own, and they are. It's Hardy ball and into midfield. Lovely carry. And are they going to make some yards? Knee down, tackle, roll away. Frank Hopkins is at the back. One out carries yet again, looking to make some yards. Buccaneers and Terenure just closing the door, and Terenure have turned it over, and they will attack from deep. Long kick. Nobody home, and it's scrambled back, and it's bounced awkwardly and just about collected from Harry Balziger. The Bucks have lost 40 metres or so, and the charge down, well, it was pressure on Frank Hopkins. Charge down, Craig Adams, and into touch it goes, and we'll have a chance to catch our breath just a little bit.
Really good defence there. Buccaneers managed to get back somehow. Unfortunately, got ripped so close to the try line. Not sure if the box kick was the right decision there. They looked to have a lot of players on the left hand side. Could have been an opportunity to run a Terenure who were a bit of 2s and 3s in the midfield.
Another stoppage for treatment. 34 on the clock. Terenure 31-6 up. Buccaneers with the opportunity to have a little word and organise themselves. Stephen Lombard makes his way. Last line-up was good. Set up the ball. It was well defended by Terenure to keep Bucks out.
Interesting to go here for a 4-man. Obviously they want to get that ball to the middle of the pitch and give themselves 2 options. So let's hope they secure this.
Overthrown and taken at the back by Levi Vaughan, and Vaughan looks to go rampaging. There's 2 players haul him down, but he still managed to make yards in that tackle, and it's been ripped on the deck. Buccaneers have their hands on it. Really well done from Frank Hopkins. We saw James Kelly having to go in as scrum half, the prop forward. Hopkins back out of that ruck and on his feet. He wants a penalty. Referee's not buying it. Campbell Classen slow to move out of the way. Lombard again on the carry. Stopped. No gain. And Hanley gets his hands on it and decides we're not going to be playing that ball down here. And the clearing kick goes straight into touch, and it will be all the way back. And that's the kind of stuff that'll break Buccaneers' heart.
Unfortunate that was just went out on the full for Buccaneers. I'd say need to take their time. There was a bit of miscommunication with which side they were going to go, either forward for the carry or else 10 kick, but probably was a bit rushed, hence they've gone back just as I was trying to do, in a very good platform for Terenure to attack from.
I have to ask, after what we've seen so far, is there an area of the pitch that isn't a good place for Terenure to attack from?
You like this left hand side.
Levi Vaughan gets his instructions from Campbell Classen. Into the middle it goes. Off the top it's taken. And Terenure looking to go through their hands. Huge carry. Caelan Dooley. And another little lovely tear out of one tackle, bouncing out of one and rolling into the 22. I've seen Stephen O'Neill going in and acting as scrum half, and Bucks scramble and organise themselves and manage to get over that and turn that ball over. And given how clinical and how dangerous Terenure have looked, that was somewhat off the boil from them.
That was excellent turnover there, Sean O'Connell. There was a lot of space outside him, so I'm glad he got in over that ball and got that turnover, else if that was moved pretty quickly, could have been a try.
So Buccaneers will put in at the 10 inside their own half. Just over 3 minutes left to play in this half. Buccaneers, 2 penalties, the only thing to show for their 2 visits to the Terenure 22. Really well taken in the middle from Fionn McDonald. And Bucks look to go through the hands. The little dink over the top isn't great, and LeGroux gets his hands on it, and LeGroux stepping this way and that, and he goes past Balzinger, and eventually Balzinger hauls him down just outside the 22. Taken with a little pick and go with Sam Coughlin-Murray. Terenure stacking up their options yet again. Will they pick and drive? Will they go to the backs? And into midfield it goes. A little shovel pass. Slow ball coming back this time round. Once again a turnover at the edge of the 22 where it counts. And it looks like all the work there done by Sean O'Connell. Yet again his second turnover in 2 minutes. And the referee says that's half time. There were some stoppages during the course of the half for injury. The Buccaneers put that one into touch and say that's enough for now. We need to regroup. We need to reorganise. The score at half time is 31-6, and on balance. Would you call that fair, Michelle Claffey?
So probably a reflection of the attacking threat from Terenure. They've ran from deep, they've got turnovers, they've got offloads, so unfortunately for Buccaneers, yes. But you can see they're kind of settling back into the game. Sean O'Connor's got 2 really important turnovers there in their own 22, so they're knowing now when to go in, when to look for that turnover rather than just leave it. That's where Terenure aren't putting people into the ruck. The turnover opportunities are there rather than fill the pitch, because Benny is just throwing that ball very wide, and it's really putting Bucks under pressure.
We'll have a minis game at half time. BTY. We'll take a very, very quick break though, and we will rejoin you for the second half in just a few minutes. You're welcome back to Lakelands as we approach the start of the second half. Nobody's told the Minis, who are slow vacating the pitch as Buccaneers make their way back on. There's no wind as such, just a change of sides, no breeze to favour either outfit. The score at half-time is 31 points to 6 in favour of Terenure. The Terenure College tries: Craig Adams, Alan Benny, Adam McGrew with 2, Niall Lawler. And the conversions, Caelan Dooley had 3 of them. Buccaneers had 2 penalties, 1 from Michael Hanley and 1 from centre Stephen Mannion. In the second half, Michelle Claffey, my co-commentator here in Lakelands, what can we expect out of Bucks? What do they have to do if they want to make any kind of game out of this?
I think they started getting a foot into the game the last 10 minutes of the second half. Really, they started to get into a bit of flow. They started getting the turnovers, started playing good field position. So I'm really excited to see Conor Fitzgibbon get on the ball a bit more. I know he was off, got his 10 minutes rest, so he's back on now, full of energy. So if Michael Hanley can just get him on the ball a little bit more, give the forwards a break, and I think we can actually see Buccaneers really put a foot down and get a couple of tries in the second half. We've seen what they can do. We know they can play rugby. So here's to a good second half.
There's no risk for Terenure here in terms of complacency. What will their coach have been telling them? The 31-6 up at half time. Is that a factor in a team talk? Is it a factor in players' heads to have that commanding lead with only 40 minutes to go?
They might become a little bit complacent, so it's up to Buccaneers to really take advantage of it here. Good collects at the start would be beneficial for them, and then I think good kicking territory and get Michael Hanley good handling it. Even already they've had really good carries from the initial ruck and nice width in it, so it's putting Terenure, pulling a bit wider.
Buccaneers moving it and starting to get up some momentum, and they really are fighting to come back into this game. That's a big carry from the centre, Conor Fitzgibbon.
There we go.
Michelle Claffey had called it just moments ago. Terenure looked to get on that ball and poach it. Hopkins gets his hands on it to Hanley, and into the middle it goes, and suddenly Buccaneers are away with an opportunity to get forward. They need to get support on this, and they have it. Hopkins at the bottom to Hanley again. Terenure's defensive line is up much quicker this time, and that's a huge hit just over the 10.
Ross Murphy-Sweeney's over here looking for a crossfield kick. The Terenure have nobody in the backfield, so if Michael Hanley can get that ball and get it out there, it'd be very impressive to get into that left corner.
To ground it eventually goes, and Hanley tried the little dink through, but it hasn't worked. It's bouncing awkwardly and it's bouncing loose, and suddenly it looks as though it's going to pop up for Adamelia, and it's collected just about in the backfield, and suddenly Buccaneers need to do something with this ball. Little show and go just outside their own try line from Evans, and he's under pressure. Bucks do really well to reorganise and get their hands on that. Evans under pressure from Adamelia.
Absolutely great maturity there from Evans to collect that ball. Firstly to get back there, collect it, and then secure it and not get turned over. Really well done from the new senior cap for Buccaneers tonight.
First senior rugby game for the full-back, and eventually it's kicked clear. Buccaneers lost yards. Adam McGrew collects it and flings it into midfield, and Craig Adams goes on a run, and he's seeing an inside gap. He shoots through it, and it's the easy score for Craig Adams. He's going to walk all the way in. The gap opened up for him. That's the second one of those we've seen in this game where the Bucks defence was caught ever so slightly napping, and that's the second try of the game for Craig Adams, and an easy score.
Just unfortunate that the clearance kick didn't get the distance that they needed. There was a lot of people outside Adams there that he could have given the ball to. He just saw that there was a bit of disconnect on the inside.
A little show and go from the winger.
Very positive start though from Buccaneers. They showed how they have big ball carriers there, and as I said, Conor Fitzgibbon got on the ball, go forward, and they're putting Terenure under pressure. So hopefully we could actually see some crossfield action here from Murphy-Sweeney. He was there clicking and waving. Hopefully Hanley catches his eye next time, because that backfield is open for Buccaneers.
Caelan Dooley, it's in front of the posts, it's routine, and he slots it through, and the score is now Terenure 38, Buccaneers 6. A nightmare start to the second half for the Connacht Senior Cup champions. What a little show and go from Craig Adams this was to sell that dummy. Nobody home into the backfield for Buccaneers, and it's run all the way in for the score under the posts. The kick-off to come from Michael Hanley. 38-6 down. Buccaneers want to start moving that ball.
Hopefully we're height on this. Really good line chase there from Buccaneers. Really good under pressure, keeping them down there as close to 22 as possible. Again, they're being selective on when to go in for the poach, which is brilliant.
Into backfield it goes, and the kick is long and high and really well collected.
Space over here in the left.
Will Bucks look to attack that space? The Terenure line so quick coming up to close the door.
Still a lot of space on the left hand side if they can move that ball.
And they do move it towards that left hand side, and suddenly there are options. Can they get through the hands all the way outside? And really well carried from Ross Murphy Sweeney, and eventually he's put into touch. And it was Sam Coughlin-Murray, and you can hear the cheers from the Terenure players. They appreciate the work rate required. You just wonder, was the pass a little bit early?
It might have been early, but if it was a quicker ruck ball, they could have just through the hands. It doesn't need to be missed pass, doesn't need to be fancy, just fix and pass. But really good start from Buccaneers, and it's kind of like a turnover from the first half in that they're getting more width in the pass, which is really positive.
Levi Vaughan goes to the tail, and Alan Benny has his hands on it and into midfield through Thornton, and out the back it goes, but it's loose and bouncing awkwardly, and Terenure have lost yards. Buccaneers look to get up and put some pressure on just outside the Terenure 22. Lawler with the pop up, but Terenure go through the hands, and at first phase and off the pillar, and there was nobody home, and Lawler gets it to hand, and a lovely little reverse pass, and suddenly it's intercepted, and Buccaneers have their opportunity to attack. Terenure doing really well to regather and regroup, and to ground it goes. Ball changed hands very quickly. Lombard on the carry. A little show and go. Superb from Martin Staunton, but he's isolated on his own, and the turnover is one.
It's a very big hit there on Stephen Lombard. One low, one high. He was stopped in his tracks. It was a very big hit on the ground, so hopefully he's okay.
Looks a little rattled at the moment, getting some treatment. The clock is off. He's been one of the more effective carriers for Buccaneers in this game, and busy looking for work all game long. I think Terenure spotted that and decided to put a stop to this guy's gallop.
One high, one low is always pretty effective, when especially on the big ball carriers. Just if they can get a little bit more width on their pass, then I really think they can get more in behind Terenure, and then the gaps will start to appear. Already this time on this side of the pitch, on the Buccaneers left hand side, there's a lot of space, and I don't know if the fullback is covering the whole pitch or just to a certain point, but there is space back there. If Hanny can get that and put a bit of depth on the kick rather than just high and dinks, could be a foot race.
The penalty was not against Martin Staunton, as I said. It was actually against James Kelly, who was isolated, and Terenure go for touch. Will have possession inside the Buccaneers 22, and do you think there might be a maul coming, Michelle Claffey?
I think Buccaneers need to make a collective decision here to hit or stay off and hopefully get a penalty. That way they don't have to compete. So they either compete or stand off. Be the best decision for them to do. There you go, standing up.
They stood off for a moment and then changed their minds and committed, and that might have been the worst decision of all, as Terenure look to rumble forward, and through they go, and they're going to go all the way over the line. No, they're not. Penalty advantage coming for collapsing.
It's going out the back to 12.
And it may be
space in the right
even
here.
further. There may be a potential yellow card coming for that, as it certainly looked like the try line was begging. Pauric Reedy indicating that there is advantage coming to Terenure for that, and it's a free play, and Thornton puts the cross-field kick. Is it going to go to hand? Nope, it's going to go dead, and so we come back for the penalty, collapsing them all. I'm curious to see will Pauric Reedy go to his pocket for this. Blown that whistle a couple of times, and it looks as though it's just going to be a chat, and the indication is, oh, more of that.
I really thought Buccaneers had stood off that and they hadn't moved, so it would have been just a simple penalty and exit for them. Unfortunate.
Do you think a little bit of indecision? Because it did look as though they weren't going to commit, and then suddenly one goes and all the players have to go.
Well, one goes, we all have to go. So we'll see what happens here now from this. Hopefully it'll be a good scrum now with Buccaneers. Get a bit of a shove on. Terenure might be thinking of what's next rather than focus on the scrum, so we'll see if we can catch them napping.
Terenure opt for the scrum penalty, and why wouldn't they? Such a huge pack. Such a strong set piece from the Division 1A finalists last season.
Looks like it'll be an 8 pick and 12 running short here. What's happening?
Jordan Coughlin keeps it, controls it at the back, and he's still bound. He picks and he dives for the line, and he's not quite there. There is penalty advantage coming to Terenure yet again as Alan Benny looked to snipe, and his opposite number dragging him clear. Great work from Frank Hopkins. There is still penalty advantage, but Terenure have been moved back 5 metres. Excellent defensive work from the scrum half. Terenure still have though, and Alan Benny, one out carry.
Really good shutdown there by Hanley. He came up and he made his hit and committed to it.
Benny for Lawler. Lawler looking to get the drive onto ground. He goes. Alan Benny popping it up for Harrison Brewer. Brewer looking to get there and can't. Benny throws the pass outside. There are players queuing up for this, and it's going to be a routine score. It is a simple one for Sam Coughlin-Murray in the corner. Buccaneers adding another 5 to make it 43 points to 6, and that through the hands, simple, easy, and finished in the corner. As you said earlier on, Michelle, the speed of the pass from Alan Benny and the range that he has with it, it's a real weapon. He spins it out.
Sam Coughlin-Murray, he's ex-Leinster, he's a former Irish Club international. He's got a pretty good accolades behind his name. It's an easy finish for him. It's just, but the attitude to Buccaneers in defence has really switched on from this half. You can see they're much more aggressive. So hopefully there's a bit of continuation of that. They just got sucked in, and that was just good from Terenure in their attacking. Strong carries, but Buccaneers didn't let them go through the middle. They made them go out wide, which is what you want to see.
This one, a difficult kick. Right hand side, right footed kicker. All the way out at the touchline. Caelan Dooley pulls it back inside and slots it through the posts. And that's his second one that he's managed to nail from the touchline. An outstanding conversion to make it Terenure 45, Buccaneers 6. 50 minutes on the clock, half an hour still to play. And it's a shame for Buccaneers considering the renewed effort they've put in the opening 10 minutes of this half. The enterprise they've shown, the physicality they've shown, and nothing on the scoreboard for them.
Not yet. A lot of them are playing under 20s. A lot here we have off the bench, obviously Oisin Dolan, under 19 Irish hooker. Get him into the game, get some experience for him in senior rugby, especially against Terenure, who are putting up to Buccaneers at the minute.
Right. Terenure have from the kickoff, and they go into their midfield. The decoy runners are everywhere, and there seems to be Terenure players queuing up to get their hands on it. The crew found it a little bit awkward to take, but eventually collects it. Quick ruck ball, and suddenly Terenure are making yards again, and there aren't enough Bucks players to stop them or slow them down. Alan Benny to Thornton. Thornton finding players queuing up and waiting for it. It spun all the way out and back inside. And Terenure just always showing options and showing potential to carry. To the deep field they go again. The step back inside is good from O'Neill and popped up into the hands of Craig Adams. But Buccaneers this time closing the door and putting pressure on that Terenure ball. They want to be careful not to overplay it. Adam Melly, a lovely pass outside. This time Terenure get the yards that they want out of it. And suddenly there's a gap to race through, and Terenure making yards in the carry. And Buccaneers weren't organised enough. Popped up inside, and it's easy for Thornton. Thornton offloads, thrown behind, blind pass into the hands of Andrew Keating, and Keating outside and a step back inside, and it looks as though Lawler was on his way, and he just trips and loses his footing inside the Bucks 22. Benny to midfield. The little dink over the top is going to bounce. Is it going to bounce well? Yes, it is. And it's going to be finished on the far side. Craig Adams, it looks like, all the way on the other side, has touched that down. And what a little kick that was from Thornton.
Buccaneers just again very narrow at the breakdown, and the width of the pass, I know I've said it before, but from Benny to Thornton, it's just taken out 4 defenders, and the scramble was excellent. Some tried to shut it down, just wasn't to be.
Thornton's kick through was outstanding. And once again, the bounce of the ball kinder to the attacking team than to the defensive team. As I mentioned earlier, this is home territory for Terenure. They'll know how that pitch bounces that ball.
I think Buccaneers in the team huddle are just focus on a few things that they want to get right. Like I think if they can just sort out the width and defence at ruck time, it would sort out a lot of the problems for them. And then I think even if they go and ball focus on defence and try to stop the offloads, because that's killing them as well.
Caelan Dooley once again with another monster of a conversion from all the way out on the far side. Manages to add the extras to make it 52 points to 6 in favour of the home team and defending Leinster Senior Cup champions. Once again, Michael Hanley has to return to that halfway line and kick this off.
You can see there Conor Fitzgibbon trying to encourage people around him to try and keep fighting against them here. Much better pressure and not as deep, so you can put pressure on the collector there for Terenure and see what happens. Again, they're trying to play out. Yeah.
Through the hands they go, and Terenure just so dangerous, moving it as they do. Contact to ground it goes into midfield. Willing carriers on every phase. Tip pass is good. Super tip pass, and it's on to Coughlin Murray, and Sam Coughlin Murray with a heavy hit on him at the touchline, but it's still in play and still playable, and into midfield. Terenure go again. Alan Benny's pass.
Better shutdown there from Buccaneers on this side. A lot of numbers on the left hand side for Terenure.
And in their haste to try and compete, Buccaneers infringe. James Kelly concedes the penalty. And Thornton, James Thornton, will put this one down the line. And once again, the conundrum of don't compete at all or get the hit on early becomes the Buccaneers forwards' problem.
They managed the initial hit from the maul quite well. It was just the 2, 3, 4 phases afterwards kind of dragged them in a bit much. And then Terenure had hands, simple, effective. It looks like they might.
To the middle it goes, and they do set up the maul, and it's going to turn and get over the line, and it's a very, very easy score for Terenure for a finish. Touchdown at the back. Looks like it was Lawler, the wing forward, unless I'm greatly mistaken, which has been known to happen.
Just a simple penalty in the middle of field. Buccaneer player just got caught on the wrong side of a tackle, got caught. Penalty down to the corner. Like both teams here are preparing for three very big games in the remainder of the Energia AIL. So there's time here for players from both Buccaneers and Terenure to get time under the belt, get combinations in place. Now I know Buccaneers are missing a number of players that would regularly start in the AIL between injuries and just away.
Yeah.
So they're missing a lot of key players today.
Caelan Dooley once again addressing the posts. And that routine for a player of that calibre. Through the sticks it goes, 59 points to 6, the score between Terenure and Buccaneers. And a long, tough day at the office for these Bucks players who have shown plenty of heart, plenty of commitment. But as Michelle Claffey pointed out, a number of players missing through injury or prior commitments. Terenure, when they're on their day, can do this to any team. Accuracy and power that they have. Kicked off. This one goes long and deep and forces Terenure back. Kicked clear. Returning kick goes into touch. Looks like it'll be between the 10 and the halfway line.
I think the short kicks were allowing Terenure to run it out of the 22, whereas the deep kicks make them kick. to exit, and so at least it gives Buccaneers the ball back at line out time. So hopefully we go full man. 5-man line out here. So again, we got ball carries in midfield, either side of the 12's shoulder, and hopefully look towards second phase. Brilliant.
Connell off the top. And now they do go into midfield, and it's Fitzgibbon on the carry, and his knee is down. The referee says that's a tackle. Hopkins. Static a little bit on the carry from Rory Byrne. Hanley looking for runners and finding them as Buccaneers look to make some yards in the contact. They've lost yards overall. Lovely little shovel on pass. Buccaneers need to get more on the ball, show
Much
more
better.
with it. And the kick is going to pin Terenure back just outside their 22. Sam Coughlin-Murray looking to return that with something. Lovely little step back inside, brought to ground just over the 10. And once again, Terenure, they've decoy runners and they've players in the deep field who are capable of running that out. And Buccaneers drift and scramble to get across and cover, and they do. At the 10, far side of the pitch. Big carry, yards made, pop up wasn't there, and it's been turned over from Buccaneers, and suddenly an option is on, and Buccaneers look to run it through. Ball is loose, just about collected. They still have that possession outside the Terenure 22. Through the hands they go. Options not available at the step back inside, and that's a lovely little run. Superb carry from Matthias O'Neill to the edge of the 22. Hanley outside. Well carried from Ross Murphy-Sweeney, but had to check his run to collect it into midfield. It's not a great pass, but Bucks still have ball bouncing loose. Buccaneers a little bit fractured. There will be a knock-on advantage.
Good carry there from Carl Walsh, just getting Buccaneers settled. Brand new player to the team, J1 regular player.
Ball bouncing and skittering and eventually standing up. But Buccaneers doing really well on multiple phases now to make some yards and test this Terenure defence a little bit. It's the first sustained period of possession that we've seen from Buccaneers. Little snipe from Hopkins, and Hanley puts the little dink through. And there is cover in the backfield, and the kick clear is going to find touch around the halfway line. And the kick, perhaps not the best option.
Puts the ball back now in Buccaneers' hands. They want to clear. Obviously, they felt under pressure, didn't feel that they could run it out of here, so which is good. It's kind of turning again back in Terenure's favour, then back to Bucks' favour. Really interesting start to the second half. Yes, they may have conceded a few tries down there, but that was from the penalties, just little mistakes that will put them there. Really positive go forward here, though, at times. Off the line out again. We got a full man. Will they look to? They look to collect and maybe pop it back in the. There's a lot of space back there in the left hand side of the pitch again.
Oisin Dolan, who Michelle Claffey mentioned just a few moments ago with the throw, but Terenure get up to interfere and they commit a number of bodies to that clean out, and the referee says there was holding on the ground. The Terenure players came streaming through, but the clear out was late, too late, and so the penalty conceded. It looks as though it was Robbie Smith, the replacement hooker, who was at the bottom of that, and so it will be a Buccaneers penalty. A chance for Michael Hanley to put this down the line, and perhaps a set piece attacking opportunity. Doesn't find touch, and that's unfortunate for Buccaneers. The returning kick does find touch inside the Bucks half, and they decide better of trying to play it quick, and so they will restart instead with Oisin Dolan yet again just inside their own half. And all in all, having won the penalty on the ground, it's a net loss of about 2 yards.
Looking forward to see Oisin Dolan get into the game here and see what the forwards can do. Full man line out again, release the backs, put some pressure out here because Terenure's centres haven't been able to do too much, so let's see what if they can handle Conor Fitzgibbons.
Ishi Abrahami is on the pitch for Buccaneers also, wearing number 23. And to the hands they go. There's a lot more energy about Buccaneers now. The little dink through was from Stephen Mannion, collected Terenure look to run it back out, and suddenly there's space, and into it they run. And other options, will they look for the offload? And it's thrown into touch. And Adam LeGroux, well, he wasn't looking for a target. A little bit of afters going on at the far side of the pitch. Tempers flaring a little bit.
Could have been a good opportunity to execute your 2v1s there. I'm sure he's done it 100 times or more in training, week in, week out. Really good defence by Bucks.
Certainly just opened up in front of Adam LeGroux, and off he took. The off-road pass was behind everyone to nobody. The referee says it was touched by a Buccaneers player on the way through, because it is Robbie Smith who's throwing into this Terenure line out. To the back it goes, it's sloppy but it's collected, and Benny tips it on. Really well done from the scrum half. Little tip on pass. Benny's at the back into midfield, and Terenure have a gap to run into, and they do run into it, and it's on to Adam LeGroux, and LeGroux is going to run in his hat-trick try, and just like that, it's simple stuff from Terenure for a finish, and that's a hat-trick for Adam LeGroux. A super finish. Dangerous stuff. They can do it from absolutely anywhere. The line out was not accurate, and still somehow they managed to attack from the halfway line, and LeGroux finishes with a burst of pace that he looks still to be a little bit winded from.
Yeah, unfortunately, Buccaneers just sat back, and they're kind of not very well connected defensively. So one person's going up, one person's sitting back, and it's just creating that dog leg, and Terenure spotting it and just making their way through it, and giving themselves a pretty easy run in there. It was just defensive errors there. One person sat back. You all need to come up together, especially if you're worried about the inside-outside, and they have threats, but...
Adam LeGroux looks like he wants to kick this conversion himself. That's his hat-trick try. He's 15 points on the board. He's trying to make it 17. From all the way out on that right touchline. Nearly 65 minutes played. 64-6 the score. LeGroux begins his run up. Soccer style kick, but it's drifted right hand side of the posts, and so the score remains 64 points to 6. On several occasions in the first half I had asked you if the score was a fair reflection of the game. At this point I have to kind of feel like 6 points is not a fair reflection of the work the Bucks have put in. They're certainly due a little more. Even if Terenure are worth all 64 points they have, you feel as though Bucks, for their endeavour, deserve a little more than 6 points.
They're worth so much more than 6 points, and I think for the next few minutes they're going to have to focus on ball retention when they do get, and just hard carries. That's backs and forwards. They need to go forward. Different kind of tact here on the kickoff. They're looking to have to make them run back. They're aiming it towards the forwards rather than the backs, so they don't get to run it out through kicks. And again, ball focus, brilliant turnover, Conor Fitzgibbon.
Conor Fitzgibbon doing really, really well.
There's space on the right if they can move it.
Hanley has spotted it. He wants it out on the right hand side, and they move it to the right hand side. And are there running options? There are. And suddenly Buccaneers are down the channel. Calls for a high tackle from the handful of Bucks fans on the far side.
Great carry there from Frank Hopkins. Hopefully now they get into a routine, they get into their shape. Totally available here for Buccaneers if they just have a bit of patience and get set.
Popped up inside, that one from Matthias O'Neill. And Hanley has his hands on it. Step back inside, Fitzgibbon brought to ground. The big 13. And a little snipe. There's a penalty advantage, and you thought for just a second that Hopkins was going to get all the way. Loads of support behind him and shoving him all the way towards the line. Eventually it goes to ground. Referee says ball is playable. Buccaneers still have the advantage. The pass isn't great. Hanley has it. Step back inside. Little twist this way and that. Nowhere to go. Door closed. Buccaneers still have, and the referee, well, it looks as though there's a bit of afters going on. And Pádraig Reedy has brought a halt to the game to intercede between some of the Buccaneers and some of the Terenure players. And Harrison Brewer, the Terenure captain, is not one bit happy.
That carry there from Frank Hopkins with a latch or two, who knew a latch in a scrum half in the 22 was so effective.
Referee and his touch judges are going to have a little chat about who saw what. And not a master of reading body language, but both of them shaking their heads would suggest that they didn't see anything. So Pádraig Reedy is going to end up telling everyone to calm down, I would think.
It's a penalty advantage here for Buccaneers. Do they go for points or do they go for line out?
Well, as the rugby expert, Michelle Claffey, I'm going to ask you, do they go for points or do they go for line out?
Line out.
It's the call from Michelle Claffey. Pádraig Reedy will restart the game. The penalty advantage was always there for Buccaneers. It's at the edge of the 22. And as she called it, so shall it be. Hanley puts that one into the corner, and Buccaneers 5 metres out with an opportunity to get a try, which will be their first of the game. Can they pull it off?
Big moment here for Dolan now. Really important for him to get his start right here, for everyone to know the role. And again, you can see the backs and the wingers pulling out wide, holding the width. I don't really see them getting the ball. If this is forward territory, they're not passing, they're not getting this ball out.
It is taken, it's a little sloppy, but Buccaneers still have it. They don't set up a maul. To ground it goes, just 5 metres out. Forwards calling for support options, and that's a huge tackle, a massive tackle from Michael Melia to stop Buccaneers in their tracks. Backwards they go in contact. Terenure's defence still mean. Out the back it goes. Lovely little loop ball and a wide pass heading towards the touchline, and a step back inside. Well, it looked like it was on for Robert Tape, but he couldn't get there for a finish. And so Buccaneers are still metres out and probing at the Terenure defence. Brewer getting some work done.
Pop and see space here on the left hand
Little
side.
pop outside and into the hands of Tape, and it is scored. The thumbs up from the touch judge. Robert Tape has Buccaneers' first try of the game, and no more than they deserve for all of the effort and endeavour. They make the score 64-11, and a chance to add 2 extras as we head into the last 10 minutes of this match.
Brilliant attack in the 22 there from Buccaneers. They pulled them one way, and you can see Frank Hopkins having a look before he can get to that ruck. Sees it's a bit of a mismatch, and it's just 3v2 and just pops in the corner. Brilliant.
There was a little decoy from Ross Murphy-Sweeney, who showed hands, and it drew just a fraction of doubt from the Terenure defenders, which allowed Robert Tape to finish in the corner for Buccaneers' first try of the game. Difficult kick from Michael Hanley all the way out on this right hand side.
I'm going to back them.
Ever the optimist, Michelle Claffey. Puts the boot on it. Is it coming back inside? It is coming back inside. That is a super conversion. And Michelle Claffey offers me a look that suggests, I told you so. Eat that humble pie, Dan Mooney.
A few changes happening here now in the Buccaneers team.
Well, that is the last action of the game for Michael Hanley.
And Frank Hopkins.
The half-back pairing is going to be replaced. The kick-off is collected by Terenure. So dangerous all the time. They got pressure on and collected that ball and looked to attack inside the box 22. Step back inside. That's a good carry from Robbie Smith, the replacement hooker. Benny spinning it, and it goes outside, and suddenly Terenure on the attack again, and there are numbers waiting just about. Collected and knocked on eventually, and suddenly Bucks find themselves on the attack. Lovely pop-up pass and a return pass. That's 3 of them, and it's intercepted, unfortunately, and suddenly Terenure are on the attack. They will have numbers outside, collected really well. Are they going to go all the way? It's been spilled forward, and the ball kicked dead, and it was ricocheted this way and that, and the knock-on was from a Terenure hand, and the try line was begging, but that's really energetic stuff. It's super rugby from both sides.
Great
attacking
last
from deep.
tackle by Cottle Walsh just back there in the 22. He wasn't expecting me there facing the centre, but he just focusing on nice and low on the hips. Terenure looked to offload. Didn't happen.
Stephen O'Neill saw that try line coming, and there was Carl Walsh had other ideas. And so the put in to the scrum will be for Buccaneers. I was a little premature when I said that Michael Hanley was coming out of the game. He's gone to scrum half rather than being replaced. So still out there. And the early engagement gives the free kick. It's kicked for touch and taken in touch, and the ball's still live, and this is how dangerous Terenure are. They want to run it from touch through hands, heading up towards the 10, and over they go, and Buccaneers need to scramble and organise. Try to get over this, good clear out. Alan Benny is at the base and whips it out, and there looks like there are numbers for Terenure, and there are numbers, and through the hands they go, and Adam LeGroux is going to run in his 4th try of the game, and Terenure collecting a ball in touch at the halfway line, go through a single phase, multi-passes, options all the time, and try.
I think they're calling it back there for a foot and touch.
Well, they are calling in the touch judge's flag is up, and it seems as though just before Adam LeGroux received that, foot was in touch. And well, take nothing away from the move, it was outstanding rugby, but you can't put your foot in touch, and so Adam LeGroux will be disappointed not to have his 4th. And instead, Oisin Dolan will restart us at the edge of the 22.
5-man line, I got runners outside 12 either side, so hopefully they collect and some go forward ball here for Buccaneers.
It was well taken at the tail, but then ball was loose and not really well dealt with, and the referee indicates that there was a knock on. So Buccaneers will have to put into the scrum just inside their 22. And at 64-13, you think it's a case now, we'll just run out this clock from here.
See what happens if it was a Buccaneers free kick again. I'd look to get it to the foot of the 8 and then run it. Why not run it out of 22? They're taking quick line outs. They're trying to keep the ball in place, so might as well match their pace for this. They're fresh legs on. Huge
scrum from Terenure, and the referee says that it's boring in and a penalty to Buccaneers, and they're going to be marched 10 while they're at it. And it seems as though Andrew Keating had a couple of words with referee Pádraig Reedy. Pádraig Reedy says, no thank you. And so Terenure are marched, and Buccaneers suddenly with an opportunity to have an attacking platform. As Hanley puts his boot on it, gets it to touch between the 10 and the 22 in the Terenure half, and now Buccaneers will look to attack.
Great touch finder there. Again, we're going to see a 5-man line out, runners either side of 12, big ball carriers. Get some go forward momentum here and just get the ball out to the left hand wing. Again, it seems to be an area that Buccaneers can take advantage of here.
Lining up just so. Plenty of players. Shortened line out to the middle and really well taken and off the top. And now it's midfield and there are carrying options. That one looked to be Abrahami, but he's been held up and lifted off the ground. Ishi Abrahami. The referee says it's been knocked on. And so it will be a put in to the scrum for Terenure. Seems to have been a knock-on indication. Ishi Abrahami was all on his own. Terenure simply gobbled him up. And I think in his haste to try and get the ball out, he spilled it. And so Terenure, their last scrum, looked powerful, but illegally so. This time around they'll want more discipline, even this late in the game.
There's a lot of players on the right hand side of this scrum for Terenure. There's only 2 bucks for Terenure on this side. A loop is coming
into midfield and a huge carry, and it's really well done to hold on from O'Neill, and the ball is loose and skittering and just about collected on the ground from Stephen O'Neill, but knocked on in the process. Stephen O'Neill not one bit happy, but service was poor to feet and knocked on. Well, the last 3 scrums shown serious power from Terenure. Buccaneers will want to anchor themselves a little bit try and get their counter shove on. Or perhaps not and draw a penalty.
So far it's been a free kick and a penalty in the last 2 scrums, so it'd be nice to get a penalty and get down to that left-hand corner and see what the line can do again.
Hanley with the feed, and Terenure have driven off it, and this time Terenure are awarded the penalty, taking that ball against the head. Hanley doing the out half doing a scrum half's job of slowing the play down.
They look like they're going to play.
Stephen O'Neill tap and go from midfield. This is what Terenure like to do. That's a huge tackle. And Terenure stopped. The ball skittering loose this way and that. Terenure still have. Little pick and go at the easy soft shoulders. And Thornton popped up, and as they're carrying options outside, still piling forward and not being brought to ground, and Buccaneers need to organise themselves. Popped up and moving through, and a little show and go. Lovely little reverse pass. Keating stepping inside. He's brought to ground 5 metres out. That was champagne rugby from Terenure, and the try line is beckoning. They're looking to close this one out with some icing on the cake. Benny is caught in possession. 5 metres out. Terenure still have. We're into the last minute of this game, and still heading towards the line. Terenure. The little go, the little pick at the edge, and Terenure have their try. They've scored just around the corner to make it 69 points to 13. And the referee says, that's that. Game over. And the final whistle, oh, is it not? Looked as though the players were beginning to congratulate each other. But there is still this conversion to come at 69-13. Who will take it this time round? It is the number 10, Thornton. Thornton slots it over the bar, and that is the final whistle. 71 points to 13 in Lakelands, and you have to feel for Buccaneers. They had all of the heart and all of the endeavour in the world, but Terenure are just that dangerous.
Terenure displayed how great they were today. They were so good at their attacking line. Their counter attack, wherever they received the ball, deep or high, it was just excellent counter. And I think Buccaneers just a bit at 2s and 3s midfield, a few dog legs. But I have to say, Buccaneers in the second half, they showed up, they turned up, and it was much better display from them. And I think it was a better reflection of how good they can be, and it's very positive for the future. A lot of under 20s there, some under 19s, some young players there who got to play against a very good team. I think it's just brilliant for them to get that experience now, and then it can potentially get them onto a bench or a starting team for the AIL remainder 3 games, which are very important for them.
Yeah, let's talk about that for just a minute. There are 3 games to go for both sides. Terenure are in the driving seat somewhat for their chance to get a home semi-final with 3 games left to go. Buccaneers also have their own fate in their own hands because they play at home against the city of Armagh in the last game of the season. Is this kind of game a distraction from that, or an opportunity?
I think it's an opportunity for other players to get involved and put their hand up for selection. Like, if this is a weekend off, they wouldn't have got any game time, and training is different to playing a match versus training. So I think it's a good opportunity, and to let them play. That's what people want to do, and I think for Terenure they tried things. Their counter is excellent, and you can identify pretty quickly what you need to work on in the coming weeks for these important games that are coming up.
Well, there will be a trophy presentation out on the pitch in Lakelands. We will have full coverage of that as it happens. But the pictures you can keep watching as the setup is being organised on the pitch. But our commentary for this evening is done. Michelle Claffey, thank you very much. From Michelle and myself, Dan Mooney at Lakelands, thank you for joining us. Have a good night.